walked into my wedding, and not a single person showed up. But within 1 hour, everything my mother built started collapsing. My name is Bethany Baker. I'm 31 years old.
And I got married in front of 214 people, none of whom my mother wanted there. Uncle Dean's voice echoed in my mind long after that moment at the altar, long after the applause faded, and the music dissolved into laughter and clinking glasses. Your daddy's outside. That sentence stayed with me. Because even after everything, even after the lies, the calls, the silence, a part of me still looked for him. Still hoped. Still waited. And I didn't understand why. Not yet. That night, after the last sparkler burned out and the last guest hugged me goodbye, Marcus and I drove home in silence. Not the heavy kind. The full kind. The kind where everything that needed to be said had already been lived. I kicked off my shoes at the door, walked straight into the kitchen, and leaned against the counter. My dress was wrinkled. My hair half fallen. My makeup long gone. Marcus stood in front of me, loosened his tie, and just looked. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. Then I shook my head. "I don't know what I feel." He stepped closer. "You don't have to know tonight." That was Marcus. No pressure. No demand. Just space. And that's when it hit me. For 31 years, I had lived inside a system where every emotion needed to be explained, justified, approved. And now, I didn't. I slid down to sit on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, knees pulled in. Marcus sat beside me. No words. Just presence. And slowly, quietly, I started to cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady. Like something inside me was finally draining out. I kept waiting for him, I whispered. Marcus didn't ask who. He knew. I know. I thought maybe this time, maybe he'd walk in. My voice cracked. Marcus rested his head gently against mine. He came, he said softly. But he didn't choose me. That was the truth I had been avoiding my entire life. Not that my father didn't love me, but that his love had limits, conditions, boundaries drawn by someone else. And that night, for the first time, I stopped waiting for him to cross them. The next morning, I woke up before Marcus. Sunlight spilled across the bedroom floor. Everything felt quiet, different, lighter. I reached for my phone. No missed calls. No messages. No chaos. Just silence. And it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I walked outside barefoot, coffee in hand, and sat on the porch steps. The air was cool. Still. And for the first time in weeks, my body wasn't bracing for impact. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it. Heart steady. No panic. No rush. Just curiosity. I answered. Hello. Silence. Then. Beth. My father. I closed my eyes. Not in pain. Not in anger. Just awareness. Hi, Dad. His breath was uneven. Like he'd been rehearsing this call for hours. I didn't know what to say yesterday. I didn't respond. I let the silence sit. Let him feel it. For once. I was there, he continued. I sat in the truck, I saw people going in. I saw everything. My grip tightened slightly around the mug. And you still didn't come inside. Another silence. Longer this time. I should have, he said. Yes, I replied. No anger. No softness. Just truth. I wanted to, he added quickly, like that might fix something. But you didn't. I didn't. We stayed there. Two people standing on opposite sides of a lifetime. I don't know how to fix this, he said finally. And for the first time in my life, I didn't try to help him. That's not my job anymore. The words surprised even me. But they felt right. Solid. Real. I'm not asking you to fix it today, I continued. Or tomorrow, but if you want a relationship with me, it has to be real, not quiet, not hidden, not approved by someone else. He didn't answer immediately. And I didn't rush him. I understand, he said eventually. His voice was smaller, honest, and maybe for the first time, his own. I'm going to try, he added. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. That's up to you. We hung up shortly after. No dramatic ending. No resolution. Just a beginning. Or maybe not even that. Just a possibility. I sat there for a while after the call, watching the sunlight shift, listening to the quiet. And then Marcus stepped outside, leaned against the doorframe and smiled. Who was that? My dad. He studied my face. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought. Like I finally stopped chasing something that was running away from me. He nodded. That's a good place to start. And it was. Because what I didn't realize back then was that my wedding day wasn't just about love showing up. It was about truth showing up. In front of 214 people. In a town that had believed one story for decades. And in one morning, that story changed. Not because I fought harder. Not because I proved anything. But because I stopped participating in a lie. And once I did, everything else followed. People saw. People understood. People chose. And most importantly, so did I. I chose a life where love didn't require permission. Where silence didn't mean safety. Where showing up mattered more than looking good. And where the people who stood beside me did it because they wanted to. Not because someone told them to. And if you're listening to this right now, if you've ever stood in a moment where everything felt like it was falling apart, where someone tried to rewrite your story, control your life, silence your truth, I want you to remember this. Sometimes, the worst thing someone can do to you is the exact thing that sets you free. Because when the illusion breaks, you finally see who's real. And once you see it, you can never go back. And that's where your life actually begins. I didn't realize how much my life had been built around anticipation until the days after the wedding felt still. Not empty. Not lonely. Just still. For years, every decision I made had an invisible audience. My mother's approval. My father's silence. The town's expectations. Even when no one said anything, I felt it. Like a constant hum under my skin. But now, that hum was gone. And at first, I didn't know what to do with that. 3 days after the wedding, I walked into the grocery store on Maple Street. Same place I'd been going since I was a kid. Same automatic doors. Same faint smell of overripe bananas and floor cleaner. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. Eyes. People turned. Whispers started. Not subtle. Not hidden. I heard my name. Bethany. That's her. That's the wedding girl. I paused near the entrance, gripping the handle of the cart just a little tighter than usual. Old instinct kicked in. Keep your head down. Move quickly. Don't engage. But then something else rose up inside me. Something new. I straightened my back, lifted my chin, and walked forward. Mrs. Callahan was the first one to approach me. She'd known me since I was 10. Used to give me cookies after school. Used to tell my mother everything I said when she thought I wasn't listening. Bethany, she said, her voice soft but charged with curiosity. Honey, are you all right? I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see authority. I saw a woman. Just a woman. I said calmly. She hesitated, clearly expecting more. Drama. Tears. Something she could carry back to her kitchen table. That must have been very difficult, she added. I nodded slightly. It was honest. That seemed to throw her off. Her eyebrows pulled together, like she didn't quite know where to place that answer. Well, your mother. I'm not discussing my mother, I said, gently but firmly. Not sharp. Not defensive. Just closed. And something shifted in her expression. Not offense. Not anger. Respect. "Oh," she said quietly. "Of course." And just like that, the conversation ended. No explanation. No justification. No performance. I moved on. Aisle by aisle. Step by step. And with every person who looked at me, I felt something strange. Not shame. Not fear. Power. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that demands attention. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing your truth and not needing anyone else to validate it. By the time I reached the checkout, the whispers had changed. They weren't sharp anymore. They were curious. Almost cautious. Like people didn't know how to approach me now. And that was new. Because my entire life they had. Freely. Comfortably. Without hesitation. But now, there was distance. And strangely, I liked it. When I got back home, Marcus was in the garage, working on something under the hood of his truck. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, just watching him for a second. He glanced up, smiled. "How was town?" I exhaled slowly. "Different." He wiped his hands on a rag and stepped closer. "Good different or weird different?" "Both." I walked inside, set the groceries on the counter, then turned back toward him. "They're talking." He leaned against the doorframe. "Of course they are." "But it's not the same," I said. "It's not judgment." He tilted his head slightly. "What is it?" I thought about it. "Uncertainty." That made him smile. "Yeah," he said. "People don't like it when the script changes." And that's exactly what it felt like. Like I had walked off the page they'd written for me. And now, they didn't know what came next. That evening, just as the sun dipped below the trees, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I stared at it for a moment, then answered. "Hello. Bethany, this is Pastor Reed." Of course it was. I closed my eyes briefly, already knowing this wouldn't be a simple call. "Hi, Pastor." His voice carried that familiar tone. Calm. Measured. But underneath it, something else. "I wanted to check in on you," he said. "After everything." "I'm doing well," I replied. "I'm glad to hear that." A pause. "I also wanted to talk about your mother." There it was. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The cool air hit my skin, grounding me. "What about her?" I asked. "She hasn't been attending services," he said carefully. "And there have been concerns." Concerns. People are asking questions about what happened, about what she told them. I let out a slow breath. And she's struggling to respond. That didn't surprise me. My mother thrived on control. On narrative. On being the one who knew everything. And for the first time, she didn't. "What are you asking me, Pastor?" I said. Another pause. Longer this time. "I'm asking if you'd be willing to speak with her." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. "I've spent 31 years speaking with her," I said quietly. "I understand, but—" "No," I interrupted, still calm. "You don't." Silence. "I'm not responsible for managing her relationships anymore," I continued. "Not with you, not with the town, not with anyone." "That's not what I meant," he said quickly. "I know," I replied. "But that's what it becomes." The weight of that truth settled between us. "I hope she finds her way through this," I added. "I really do. And if she reaches out to you—" I looked out at the road, empty and quiet. "Then I'll decide what I'm willing to accept. Not what I owe. Not what I should do. What I'm willing to accept." That was the difference. After the call ended, I stood there for a long time, watching the sky fade, feeling something unfamiliar settle into my chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Distance. Clean. Clear. And for the first time, it didn't hurt. A week later, I saw her. Not planned. Not expected. Just there. I was at the post office, standing in line, flipping through a stack of envelopes when the door opened behind me. And I knew. Before I even turned around. My body recognized her presence before my mind did. That same tension. That same awareness. But something was different. It didn't grip me. It just passed through. I turned slowly. And there she was. Margaret Baker. My mother. But not the version I had known my whole life. Her posture was slightly hunched. Her eyes uncertain. She looked smaller. Not physically, but energetically. Like something had been taken from her. Or maybe, like something she had been holding onto had finally slipped away. Our eyes met. And for a moment, we just stood there. No words. No scene. No audience. Just two people. She took a step toward me. Then stopped. Like she wasn't sure she had the right. "Bethany," she said softly. I nodded once. "Mom." The word felt different. Not heavy. Not loaded. Just a word. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said. Neither did I. Another silence. She looked around briefly, then back at me. "I've been trying to call you." "I know. You didn't answer." "I wasn't ready." She swallowed. Nodded slightly. "That's fair." That alone caught me off guard. No defensiveness. No guilt. Just acknowledgement. "I made a mistake," she said. There it was. Simple. Direct. But I didn't respond immediately. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. "What kind of mistake?" I asked. Her eyes flickered. Like she hadn't expected a follow-up. I thought I was protecting you," she said. "From making a decision that would hurt you. And so you lied to 120 people." Her voice caught. "I didn't think it would go that far." "It did." "I know." She looked down at her hands. Twisted her fingers together. A gesture I had seen my entire life, but never really noticed. "I didn't realize how much control I was trying to keep," she admitted quietly. "And now." She looked back up at me. And for the first time, I saw something I had never seen in her before. Fear. Now I don't have any. And that was the truth. Not just about the situation. About everything. And standing there, I understood something I hadn't before. My mother wasn't just controlling. She was afraid. Afraid of losing relevance. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of not being needed. And she had built her entire life around avoiding that fear, even if it meant controlling mine. "I'm not here to punish you," I said finally. Her eyes softened slightly. "But I'm also not going back to who I was." She nodded quickly. "I'm not asking you to." "I need space," I continued. Real space, not silence filled with expectations, not distance that comes with pressure. "I understand. And if we're going to have any kind of relationship, it has to be different." "It will be," she said, almost too quickly. I held her gaze. "Not because you say it, because you do it." That landed. I could see it. The shift. The realization. This wasn't a conversation she could control. This wasn't something she could talk her way through. This required change. Real change. "I don't know how yet," she admitted. That's honest. We stood there for another moment. Then they called her name at the counter. She glanced back, then at me. "Can I call you again sometime?" I thought about it. Not out of obligation. Not out of guilt. But from a place I was still learning to trust. "Yes," I said. "But I'll answer when I'm ready." She nodded. "Okay." And just like that, we stepped away from each other. Not broken. Not fixed. Just different. And as I walked out of that post office, something became clear to me. The wedding wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of everything. Because for the first time in my life, every relationship I had was being rebuilt. Not on expectation, not on fear, but on truth. And that meant some things would grow, some things would change, and some things would finally fall away. The days after that encounter didn't explode into drama like I used to expect. No sudden arguments, no emotional storms, just slow movement. And somehow, that felt more intense than anything loud ever had. Because silence, when it's real, doesn't hide things. It reveals them. 2 weeks passed before my mother called again. I was sitting on the living room floor, sorting through a box of old photos I had brought from my childhood home. I don't even remember why I opened it that day. Maybe curiosity. Maybe closure. Maybe something in me already knew what I was about to find. My phone buzzed beside me. Her name. Not unknown anymore. Not avoided. Just there. I stared at it for a moment, then answered. Hi. Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. Hi, Bethany, is this a bad time? I glanced at the photos scattered around me. Old birthdays. School plays. Smiles that felt staged now that I looked at them with new eyes. No, I said. It's fine. A small exhale came through the phone, like she'd been holding her breath. I was wondering if you'd be willing to meet, somewhere public, just to talk. Not come home. Not you need to. Just asking. That mattered. I leaned back against the couch, thinking. 2 weeks ago, I would have said no without hesitation. Now. I can do that, I said slowly. Another pause. Thank you, she whispered. We agreed on a small cafe just outside town. Neutral ground. No history attached to it. The next day, I arrived early. Not because I was nervous. Because I wanted control over my space. I chose a table near the window. Ordered coffee. Sat where I could see the entrance. Old habits, but now they felt intentional. Not reactive. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her again. Not because she looked different, but because she wasn't scanning the room like she used to. She wasn't calculating. She looked unsure. Like she didn't know where she fit anymore. Her eyes found me. She walked over slowly. Hi, she said. Hi. She sat down across from me, placing her purse gently on the chair beside her like she didn't want to take up too much space. That was new. Very new. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The waitress came, took her order, left. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was careful. I've been thinking a lot, she started. I nodded. I figured. She gave a small, almost embarrassed smile. I don't think I ever realized how much I controlled things until I couldn't anymore. I didn't interrupt. Didn't fill the space. She needed to hear herself. I always thought I was helping, she continued. Guiding, protecting. Her fingers wrapped around her coffee cup. But I see now, I was deciding. Yes, I said simply. No edge. No softness. Just truth. Her eyes flickered up to mine. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I'm not thinking about forgiveness right now. That seemed to catch her off guard. What are you thinking about? Whether things can be different. She nodded slowly. That's fair. Another pause. Then she did something I never expected. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed it on the table. I wrote something, she said. I didn't touch it. What is it? A list. A list of what? She swallowed. Things I need to change. That stopped me. Not because it was dramatic. Because it wasn't. It was specific. Real. I reached forward and picked it up. Unfolded it. Her handwriting was neat. Careful. Almost too careful. Like she didn't want to get anything wrong. The first line hit me immediately. I will not speak for you. I inhaled slowly. Second line, I will not contact people about your life without your permission. Third, I will accept your decisions without trying to redirect them. I kept reading. Each line simple, clear, accountable. Not excuses, not explanations, actions. When I finished, I looked up at her. She wasn't watching me. She was staring at the table, waiting. I don't know if I can do all of this perfectly, she said quietly. But I need to try, not for you to accept me again, but because I don't like who I was becoming. That was new. Not so you'll forgive me. Not so things go back. But internal. I folded the paper again, placed it gently on the table. This is a start, I said. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Relief. But I wasn't done. Not a solution. She nodded quickly. I understand. And it's going to take time. I know. And consistency. Yes. I leaned back slightly, studying her. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to read between her words. I was just listening to what she actually said. And what she didn't. I'm willing to see where this goes, I said finally. Her eyes filled instantly. Not dramatic. Just full. Thank you, she whispered. But, I added, if it starts to feel like before, I will step back again. You should, she said immediately. That answer told me more than anything else. She meant it. Or at least, she believed she did. And for now. That was enough. We talked for another hour. Not about the wedding. Not about the past. About small things. Safe things. But even in those small things, I noticed differences. She didn't interrupt. She didn't redirect. She didn't correct. She listened. Really listened. And when we stood to leave, something shifted inside me again. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But possibility. Real possibility. As I walked out of that cafe, I realized something I hadn't expected. Healing doesn't feel like a big moment. It feels like small moments that don't go wrong. That evening, Marcus noticed it immediately. We were sitting on the porch again, the sky turning that soft orange-pink color that always made everything feel slower. You saw her, he said. Not a question. I smiled slightly. Is it that obvious? He nodded. You're lighter. I let that sink. I think she's actually trying. He didn't respond right away. And I appreciated that. Because he wasn't going to tell me what I wanted to hear. He was going to tell me what was real. Then let her try, he said finally. But don't do the work for her. I nodded. I won't. And for once, I meant that. Not as a promise to him, but as a boundary for myself. The next few weeks became something I never thought I'd experience with my mother. Consistency. She called, but not too much. She asked, but accepted my answers. She showed up without taking over. And slowly. Very slowly. Something rebuilt. Not the old relationship. Something new. Something quieter. More honest. And then one evening, about a month later, everything shifted again. Not because of her. Because of my father. I was in the kitchen, making dinner, when there was a knock at the door. Not a call. Not a message. A knock. Marcus looked at me. I froze for half a second. Then walked toward the door. Opened it. And there he was. My father. Standing there. Not in his work clothes. Not rushed. Not distant. Just there. For real this time. And the look in his eyes told me this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. Not even close. For a second, I didn't move. Not because I was shocked. Because I was measuring. Everything. His posture. His eyes. His hands. He wasn't hiding behind anything this time. No truck. No distance. No excuses. Just standing there on my porch, like a man who finally understood he couldn't stay outside anymore. Hey, he said. His voice was lower than usual. Careful. Like he didn't want to break something fragile. I kept my hand on the door, not closing it, not opening it wider. Hey. Marcus stayed in the kitchen, but I could feel him there. Not watching. Not interfering. Just present. Always present. I should have called, my father added. Yes, I said. He nodded once, accepting it. I didn't know if you'd answer. That's fair. Silence settled between us. But this silence wasn't empty. It was deciding. I don't want to talk on the porch, he said after a moment. But I will if that's all you're willing to give me. That was new. Choice. Acknowledgement. Respect. I studied him for another second. Then stepped back. Come in. He exhaled quietly, like he'd been holding that breath the entire drive. When he walked inside, he looked around like he was stepping into a place he wasn't sure he deserved to be in. Which maybe he wasn't. Not yet. Marcus turned slightly, gave a small nod. Mr. Baker. Marcus. No tension. No hostility. Just two men recognizing the weight of the moment. I'll give you guys space, Marcus said, grabbing his jacket. I'm gonna step out for a bit. I looked at him. You don't have to. I know, he said softly. But you might want it. That was the difference. Choice again. I nodded. Okay. He passed by me, his hand brushing lightly against mine for half a second. Grounding. Then he was gone. The door closed. And just like that. It was me and my father. Alone. For real. Sit, I said, gesturing toward the table. He pulled out the chair slowly, like sudden movements might ruin everything. I sat across from him. Same position I'd sat in with my mother weeks ago. But this felt heavier. Because my father wasn't the storm. He was the silence that allowed it. And that kind of damage runs deeper. He rested his hands on the table. Then pulled them back. Then rested them again. I don't know where to start, he admitted. I leaned back slightly. Then don't start with the right words. Start with the truth. He nodded. Took a breath. I was a coward. No buildup. No explanation. Just that. And it landed harder than anything else he could have said. Because it was accurate. You were, I said. He didn't flinch. Didn't defend. I told myself I was keeping the peace, he continued. That staying quiet was better than making things worse. His jaw tightened. But I wasn't keeping the peace. I was choosing comfort. I watched him carefully. Every word lined up. No performance. No manipulation. Just realization. And it cost you, he said, his voice dropping. It cost you your voice in that house. It cost you your confidence. It probably cost you years of your life. Probably. That word almost made me smile. Not because it was funny. Because even now, he didn't fully know. And maybe he never would. It did, I said simply. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. I don't expect you to just let me back in, he said. Good. He nodded. I came here because I don't want to be that man anymore. I tilted my head slightly. Then don't be. He let out a small breath. It's not that simple. No, I said. It's not easy, but it is simple. That made him pause. Really pause. You either show up or you don't, I continued. You either speak or you stay silent. You either stand by your choices or you hide behind someone else's. His eyes dropped to the table. I see that now. Seeing it and doing something about it are different. I know. I leaned forward slightly. So what are you going to do? That question mattered. Because for the first time, I wasn't asking him to explain the past. I was asking him to define his future. He inhaled slowly. I told your mother I won't support her if she tries to control you again. That got my attention. Not emotionally. Logically. And she didn't take it well. I'm not surprised. A faint, almost sad smile crossed his face. She said I was choosing you over her. And what did you say? He looked up at me. I said I'm choosing what's right. That sat between us. Heavy. Real. And are you? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Because this wasn't a question he could rush. I'm trying to, he said finally. I held his gaze. Trying isn't enough long-term. I know. But it's a start. He nodded. Relief flickered across his face, but I wasn't finished. You don't get access to my life just because you showed up today, I said. His shoulders straightened slightly. I understand. You build that. I will. Slowly. Yes. Consistently. Yes. And if you disappear again. His expression tightened. I won't, he said quickly. I shook my head slightly. Don't promise that, just don't do it. That landed deeper than a promise ever could. He leaned back in his chair. For the first time since he walked in, he looked steady. Not comfortable. But grounded. I'd like to get to know you again, he said. That almost broke something in me. Not painfully. Just unexpectedly. Because for so long, all I had wanted was for him to know me. And now, he was asking for the chance. I'm not the same person I was in that house, I said. I know. Good. Another pause. Then I stood up. Walked to the kitchen. Poured 2 glasses of water. Set one in front of him. Small gesture. But intentional. He looked at it like it meant more than it did. Or maybe exactly as much as it did. I'm willing to see where this goes, I said. His eyes lifted slowly. Really? Really? He let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in his chest for years. Thank you. But, I added, sitting back down, this isn't a reset. He nodded quickly. I know. This is something new. Yes. And it only works if it stays honest. It will. I studied him one more time. Then gave a small nod. And just like that. We didn't fix everything. We didn't erase anything. We didn't become a perfect family. But we did something more important. We stopped pretending. He stayed for another hour. We talked. Not about heavy things. Not yet. Just life. Work. Small memories. Moments that didn't carry weight. And even in those simple conversations, I noticed it. He was present. Fully. Not distracted. Not distant. Just there. When he finally stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. I'll call, he said. I nodded. I might not answer every time. I understand. But I'll notice if you stop calling. That hit him. In a good way. I won't stop. I didn't respond to that. I just opened the door. He stepped outside. Then paused. Turned back. I'm proud of you, he said. And for the first time in my life, it didn't feel like something I had been waiting my whole life to hear. It just felt like a sentence. A kind one. But not defining. Thank you, I replied. He nodded once. Then walked away. I closed the door slowly. Leaning against it for a second. Letting everything settle. Marcus came back about 10 minutes later. He didn't ask right away. Just took off his jacket, set his keys down. Then looked at me. Well. I exhaled. It was real. He smiled slightly. That's a good sign. I nodded. Yay. And as I stood there, in the quiet of my own home, I realized something that would have been impossible for me to understand just a month ago. My life wasn't being controlled not by my mother. Not by my father. Not by the town. Not by the past. And for the first time, every relationship I had was a choice. Not an obligation. Not an expectation. A choice. And that changed everything. The strange thing about change is, it doesn't announce itself. It just starts showing up in small, almost unnoticeable ways. Until one day, you realize everything feels different. That's what the next few weeks became. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just consistent. My father called. Not every day. Not obsessively. But regularly. And when I didn't answer, he didn't follow it with 3 more calls or a message loaded with guilt. He just tried again another time. That alone told me more than any apology could. My mother kept her distance. But not in the old way. Not silent punishment. Not strategic withdrawal. She would text sometimes. Short messages. Simple. I saw something that reminded me of you. Or, I hope your week is going well. No pressure to respond. No hidden expectation. And slowly, I started replying. Not out of obligation. Out of choice. That word still felt new in my life. Choice. It sounds simple until you realize how many people live without it. Or think they have it when they really don't. One evening, about 6 weeks after the wedding, Marcus and I were sitting in the backyard. He had a small fire going. Nothing big. Just enough to hear the crackle. To feel the warmth. I've been thinking, he said, poking at the fire with a stick. That's always dangerous, I replied lightly. He smirked. About moving. I looked at him. Not surprised. Just curious. Moving where? Not far, he said. Just somewhere new. Somewhere that doesn't already have a version of you built into it. That landed deeper than I expected. Because he was right. This town, even with everything changing, still knew me as someone I wasn't anymore. Are you trying to run away? I asked. He shook his head. No, I'm trying to give us a clean space to build something. I leaned back in my chair, staring up at the sky. Dark. Clear. Quiet. I don't feel like I'm trapped here anymore, I said. I know, he replied. That's why now would be a choice, not an escape. That difference mattered. A lot. I don't want to leave just to prove something, I said. Then don't. I also don't want to stay just because it's familiar. Then don't do that either. I smiled slightly. That's not very helpful. He shrugged. It's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be honest. And that was Marcus. He didn't lead me. He didn't push me. He just walked beside me while I figured things out. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I'm asking. The next morning, I got a call from a number I hadn't seen in years. For a second, I didn't even recognize it. Then it clicked. Emily. My childhood best friend. Or what used to be. I hesitated before answering. Because some relationships don't end with a clear moment. They just fade. And sometimes, bringing them back means reopening things you never really closed. But I answered anyway. Hello. Beth. Her voice sounded the same. And completely different. Hey, Emily. There was a pause. Like we were both adjusting to the fact that this conversation was actually happening. I've been meaning to call you, she said. Okay. I just didn't know if you'd want to hear from me. Honest. At least she started there. What made you call now? I asked. Another pause. I heard what happened. Of course she did. Everyone had. And I realized I should have called you a long time ago. I didn't respond right away. Because this wasn't about the wedding. Not really. You disappeared, I said. Not accusing. Just stating. I know. No explanation. I know. No warning. I know. Her voice cracked slightly on that last one. I was dealing with stuff, she continued. My mom school everything, but that's not an excuse. I just shut down. I leaned against the counter, processing. And now I'm trying to not be that person anymore. That sounded familiar. Too familiar. Different people. Same realization. I don't know what this is yet, I said. I don't either, she admitted. But I'd like to find out if you're open to it. I closed my eyes for a second. Not overwhelmed. just thinking. Because this was the pattern now. People coming back. People trying. People changing. And the question wasn't, do they deserve it? The question was, what do I want? I'm open to talking, I said finally. Relief flooded her voice instantly. Really? Really? But slowly. Of course. And honestly. Yes. We ended the call shortly after. And as I set my phone down, I noticed something. This didn't feel like reopening an old. It felt like standing in front of a new one, with someone who used to know me. That difference mattered. A lot. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had been putting off. Not because I was afraid. Because I hadn't been ready. I drove back to my childhood home. Not to go inside. Not to confront anything. Just to see it. From the outside. From who I was now. The house looked the same. Perfect lawn. Clean windows. Everything in place. From the outside, nothing had changed. But I knew better. I parked across the street. Sat there for a moment. Hands resting on the steering wheel. No anxiety. No tightness in my chest. Just awareness. That house held every version of me I had ever been. The quiet one. The obedient one. The one who asked permission. The one who tried to be perfect. And now, none of those versions were driving anymore. I stepped out of the car. Walked slowly to the sidewalk. Just stood there. Looking. Not judging. Not reliving. Just seeing. And for the first time in my life, that house didn't feel like power. It felt like a place I used to. Nothing. Nothing less. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A message from my. I was thinking about you today. Hope you're doing okay. Simple. No pressure. No expectation. I typed back. I am. Then paused. Then added something I had never sent him before. Thank you for showing up. I stared at the message for a second. Then hit send. And as I slipped my phone back into my pocket, something settled inside me. Not closure. Not finality. Something better. Peace without needing everything to be perfect. I took one last look at the house. Then turned around. Walked back to my car. And drove away. Not running. Not escaping. Just moving forward. And for the first time, I didn't look back. The next chapter of my life didn't begin with a big decision. It began with a quiet one. I said yes to something small, and that changed everything. A few days after I drove past the house, Marcus came home with 2 envelopes in his hand. He tossed them onto the kitchen counter like it was nothing. But I could see it in his eyes. This wasn't nothing. What's that? I asked, drying my hands. Options, he said. I raised an eyebrow. That sounds vague on purpose. He smiled. Open them. I walked over, picked up the first envelope, and slid my finger under the seal. Inside, a brochure. A small coastal town. Clean streets. Open skies. Water stretching out further than anything our town had to offer. I opened the second one. Mountains. Cabins. Trails. Space. 2 completely different places. 2 completely different lives. You've been thinking about this longer than you said, I murmured. He leaned against the counter. I've been thinking about what kind of life we could have, if we built it intentionally. That word again. Built. Not inherited. Not forced. Not expected. Chosen. I didn't apply anywhere, he added. Didn't make any decisions. I just wanted to see what it felt like for you. I looked down at the brochures again, and instead of panic, instead of pressure, I felt something. Curiosity. What do you feel when you look at them? He asked. I didn't answer right away, because I wanted to be honest. Not quick. The ocean one feels open, I said slowly. Like nothing's watching. And the mountains. Quiet, Like I'd finally hear my own thoughts without them echoing off other people's expectations. He nodded. Neither feels like running. I shook my head. No. That mattered. More than anything. Because if I had still felt like I was escaping, I would have said no. I don't need to leave to be okay, I said. I know. But I also don't need to stay to prove anything. He smiled. That's the answer. I looked at him. So what now? He shrugged lightly. Now, we decide what kind of life we actually want. That question stayed with me all day. Not in a heavy way. In a steady way. Like something that didn't need to be rushed. That evening, I got a call from my mother. I almost let it ring. Not out of avoidance. Out of habit. Then I answered. Hi. Hi, Bethany, she said. I hope I'm not interrupting. You're not. A pause. I wanted to ask you something, she continued. Okay. Would you be willing to come by the house this weekend? There it was. The place I had stood outside of just days ago. The place that used to define everything. I leaned back in my chair. Thinking. Why? I asked. Honest question. Not defensive. I've been going through things, she said. Old things, your things. My chest tightened slightly. Not painfully. Just awareness. And I think there are things you should decide what to do with. That was different. Not come home. Not we need to talk. Your things. Choice again. I can come by, I said. Her exhale was quiet. Relieved. Thank you. But not for long, I added. And not to revisit anything. I understand. We hung up. And I sat there for a moment. Just feeling it. That place didn't scare me anymore. But it still meant something. Marcus watched me from across the room. You're going back, he said. Not a question. Yea. How do you feel about it? I thought about it. Like I'm walking into a place that used to control me, as someone it can't control anymore. He nodded slowly. That's a different kind of strength. I didn't respond. But I felt it. 2 days later, I stood at that front door again. This time, I knocked. Not because I had to. Because I chose to. My mother opened the door almost immediately. Like she had been waiting right there. But she didn't step forward. Didn't reach for me. She just opened the door wider. Hi. Hi. I walked in. And instantly, I noticed the difference. Not in the house. In her. She didn't guide me. Didn't direct me. Didn't say sit or come here or we need to talk. She let me move. Freely. That alone told me she was trying. Everything's in the living room, she said softly. I nodded and walked in. Boxes. Stacks. Pieces of my life. Childhood drawings. Old journals. School awards. Photos. So many photos. I crouched down, picking one up. Me maybe 8 years old. Smiling. Perfect posture. Perfect dress. Perfect everything. Except now. I could see it. The tension in my shoulders. The way my smile didn't quite reach my eyes. I thought you'd want to decide what stays, and what doesn't, my mother said from behind me. I didn't turn around. Thank you. We spent the next hour going through everything. Not talking much. Just sorting. Some things I kept. Not because they were perfect. Because they were mine. Some things I set aside. Not out of anger. Just release. At one point, I found an old journal. I flipped it open. My handwriting. Messy. Young. One line caught my eye. I wish I could be myself without making someone upset. I froze. That line. That one sentence. Held everything. My entire childhood. Every decision. Every hesitation. I closed the journal slowly, holding it in my hands. And for a moment, I just sat there, Not crying. Not breaking. Just understanding. I didn't know you felt that way, my mother said quietly. I hadn't realized she was close enough to read it. I turned to look at her. You didn't ask. The words weren't sharp. They were true. She nodded slowly. I see that now. Silence again. But this silence wasn't avoidance. It was acknowledgement. I can't change that, she said. No. But I can make sure you never feel that way around me again. I held her gaze. That promise meant something now. Not because of the words. Because of everything she had been doing. I'll decide that, I said gently. She nodded. You should. We went back to sorting. And by the time we finished, the room looked different. Lighter. Less crowded. Like space had been made. Not just physically. Emotionally. I stood up, brushing my hands together. That's everything. She looked around. Then back at me. Are you okay? I thought about it. Really thought. And for the first time in that house, I answered honestly. Yes. Not I will be. Not I think so. Yes. She smiled slightly. Not wide. Not overwhelming. Just real. I'm glad. I picked up the box I was keeping. Walked toward the door. She followed but kept her distance. At the doorway, I turned back. Not out of obligation. Out of choice. This doesn't fix everything, I said. I know. But it matters. Her eyes softened. Thank you for giving it a chance. I nodded once. Then stepped outside. The air felt different. Not because it had changed. Because I had. I walked to my car. Placed the box in the back seat. Then paused for a second before looking at the house one last time. Not with pain. Not with longing. Just clarity. That place didn't define me anymore. It didn't hold me. It didn't control me. It was just a chapter. And I had finally turned the page. When I got home, Marcus met me at the door. Took the box from my hands. Set it down gently. Well, he asked. I smiled. Not big. Not dramatic. Just sure. I'm ready. For what? I looked at him. At the life we were building. At the space that was finally ours. To choose what comes next. He didn't answer right away. Marcus just looked at me for a second, like he was making sure I really meant it. Not the words. The place they were coming from. Then he nodded once. Okay. That was it. No speech. No pressure. No rush. Just okay. And somehow that made it real. That night, we sat at the table with those same 2 brochures between us. Ocean. Mountains. 2 different versions of a future that didn't exist yet. I traced my finger along the edge of the paper, not really looking at the pictures anymore. I was thinking about something else. Do you ever feel like we're allowed to be this calm? I asked quietly. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Allowed by who? I let out a small breath. Exactly. That was the thing. For so long, my life had been structured around permission. What I could say. What I could feel. What I could choose. And now, there was no one left to ask. I think I want something new, I said finally. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just clear. Marcus didn't smile right away. He just nodded again. Yea. Yea. Which one? I looked at the brochures again. The ocean felt like freedom. The mountains felt like peace. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't have to choose based on what I needed to recover from. I could choose based on what I wanted to build. The ocean, I said. He smiled then. Not big. Just enough. Yeah, he said. I had a feeling. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? You've been talking about space, not silence. That was true. I want to feel like the world is bigger than what I came from, I said. It is, he replied. You just haven't been living in that part of it yet. That night, we didn't make a plan. We didn't pack boxes. We didn't announce anything. We just decided. And that was enough. The next few weeks moved differently. Not chaotic. Not overwhelming. Intentional. Marcus started making calls. Looking into opportunities. Nothing locked in. Just exploring. And I started doing something I had never really done before. I told people. Not everyone. Not in a dramatic way. Just honestly. I told my father first. We were sitting at a small diner just outside town. One of those places where the coffee is always too hot, and the conversations feel a little more real because of it. I think we're moving, I said. He froze for half a second. Not shocked. Just processing. Where? Near the coast. He nodded slowly. That's far. It is. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't tense. It was reflective. I'm happy for you, he said finally. And I believed him. That was new. I'm not leaving to get away, I added. I know. I'm leaving because I want something different. He looked at me. Really looked. That's the right reason. I smiled slightly. Yay. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug. I'm going to have to learn how to be in your life from a distance, he said. That's part of it. I don't want to lose this again. His voice dropped on that last word. I leaned forward slightly. Then don't disappear. I won't. I held his gaze. Not with promises. He nodded. Right. With actions. Yes. That landed. We didn't need to say more. Because now, we both understood what mattered. Telling my mother was different. Not harder. Just different. I went to see her in the afternoon. She was in the kitchen when I walked in. Same place she had always been, but not the same person. I have something to tell you, I said. She turned, wiping her hands on a towel. What is it? I'm moving. There it was. Simple. Direct. No build-up. Her expression shifted. Not shock. Not anger. Something quieter. Where? The coast. She nodded slowly. That's a big change. It is. A pause. And for a moment, I saw it. The old reaction. The instinct to question. To redirect. To insert herself. But she didn't. She let it pass. I'm proud of you, she said instead. And that almost surprised me more than anything else she could have said. Thank you. When? She asked. A couple of months. She nodded again. That gives us time. Time for what? She hesitated. Then answered honestly. To keep building something before you go. That felt real. Not controlling. Not demanding. Just wanting. I'm okay with that, I said. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. I am too. And just like that, the conversation ended without tension. Without manipulation. Without anything breaking. That's how I knew things had actually changed. Not because everything was perfect, but because nothing was forced. The night before we left, I went back to the porch one last time. The same spot where everything had started to shift. The same place where silence had first felt like peace, instead of pressure. Marcus sat down beside me, handing me a cup of coffee. You ready? He asked. I looked out at the road. The same road that had once felt like the edge of my world. And now, it just felt like a starting point. Yeah, I said. Not nervous. Not hesitant. Just ready. I used to think everything falling apart was the worst thing that could happen, I said quietly. Marcus glanced at me. And now? I smiled slightly. Now I think it was the only thing that could have set me free. He nodded. That sounds about right. We sat there for a while. No rush. No countdown. Just presence. And then, as the night settled in around us, I realized something that tied everything together. The wedding. The empty chairs. The lies. The silence. The confrontation. The rebuilding. None of it was random. None of it was wasted. It all led here. To a life that wasn't controlled by fear. Or expectations. Or someone else's version of who I should be. A life that I chose. Fully. And as I stood up, ready to go inside for the last time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was finally walking towards something that had been waiting for me all along. Something real. Something honest. Something mine. And this time, no one was going to take that away from me. The morning we left didn't feel like a big goodbye. No dramatic music in my head. No last-minute doubts. Just movement. Boxes stacked neatly by the door. The car loaded. The house quiet in a way that didn't feel empty. Marcus was outside securing the last of the luggage when I walked through each room one final time. Not to hold on. To acknowledge. This was where everything had changed. Not the house I grew up in. This one. The place where I learned what it meant to choose. I ran my fingers lightly across the kitchen counter, then the back of the chair where I used to sit at night, thinking through everything that had unraveled and rebuilt itself in such a short time. No pain. No heaviness. Just recognition. Ready. Marcus called from outside. I took one last look. Then turned away. Yay. And that was it. We didn't lock the door like we were sealing something off forever. We locked it like we were leaving a place that had done its part. The drive felt longer than it actually was. Not because of distance. Because of what it meant. The town faded behind us slowly. Familiar streets turned into open roads. Open roads turned into something else entirely. Space. Real space. At one point, Marcus glanced over at me. "You're quiet." I smiled faintly. Just thinking. About. I looked out the window. Field stretching out, uninterrupted. "I don't feel like I'm leaving my life," I said. He nodded. "Because you're not. I feel like I'm taking it with me." "That's exactly what you're doing." And that settled something inside me. Because for years, I thought freedom meant escape. Now I understood. It meant ownership. When we finally reached the coast, it was late afternoon. The sky was wide, in a way I had never experienced before. Endless. The air felt different. Lighter. Cleaner. Like it hadn't been filtered through expectations. We parked near the small house we had rented for the first few months. Nothing fancy. Just enough. Marcus stepped out first, stretching slightly. I followed. And the first thing I heard was the ocean. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just constant. I stood there for a moment, letting it settle into me. "That's going to take some getting used to," I said. Marcus smiled. "Good or bad?" "Good." We carried the boxes inside, one by one. Setting things down. Not organizing yet. Not rushing to make it perfect. Just placing pieces of our life into a new space. At one point, I walked out onto the small porch. The ocean stretched out in front of me. No boundaries. No edges I could see. And for the first time in my life, I felt small. Not in a shrinking way. In a freeing way. Like I didn't have to carry everything anymore. Like the world was bigger than my past. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it might be. I pulled it out. A message from my phone. "Did you make it there safely?" Simple. Steady. I typed back. "We did, it's beautiful." 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then stopped. Then appeared again. Then finally. "I'm glad." That was it. No extra words. No reaching too far. Just showing up. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. Then another vibration. My mother. "I hope the house feels like yours." I stared at that message for a second, then smiled slightly, because that's exactly what she would have struggled to say before. I replied, "It does. And for the first time." That wasn't something I was trying to convince myself of. It was true. Marcus stepped out onto the porch beside me, wrapped his arm lightly around my shoulders. "So," he said, "what now?" I looked out at the ocean again, the horizon stretching further than anything I had ever known. And I thought about everything that had brought me here. The wedding that never happened the way it was supposed to. The silence that exposed everything. The people who broke. The people who changed. And the version of me that finally stepped out of all of it. "Now," I said slowly, "we build something that actually feels like us." He nodded. "I like that." We stood there for a while. No rush. No plan. Just presence. And then I realized something that tied everything together in a way I hadn't fully seen before. My mother tried to control my life by deciding how it should look. My father lost himself by staying silent inside that control. And me. I spent years trying to survive inside both. But the moment everything collapsed, I was given something I had never had before. A blank space. And for most of my life, that would have terrified me. Now, it felt like possibility. Real possibility. Because I wasn't rebuilding the same life. I was creating a new one. From scratch. With intention. With choice. With truth. And as the sun dipped lower, casting gold across the water, I felt something settle inside me that I had never experienced before. Not relief. Not closure. Something deeper. Ownership. Of my voice. Of my decisions. Of my life. And the most powerful part. No one could take that away from me anymore. Because this time, I didn't give it to them in the first place. I turned slightly, looking at Marcus. Then back at the ocean. And for the first time in my life, the future didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I actually wanted to live. The first night by the ocean didn't feel unfamiliar. That surprised me. I had expected restlessness, maybe even a little regret. But instead, as I lay there listening to the steady rhythm of the waves, it felt like something inside me had finally matched the outside world. No tension. No waiting for something to go wrong. Just stillness. Marcus was already asleep beside me, his breathing slow and even. I stared at the ceiling for a while, letting the quiet settle in deeper. And then a thought crossed my mind. Not loud. Not intrusive. Just clear. This is mine now. Not borrowed. Not controlled. Not conditional. Mine. And instead of questioning it, I let myself believe it. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not out of habit. Out of curiosity. The light coming through the window was softer, warmer. I stepped outside without waking Marcus. The air had that early morning chill, but it wasn't sharp. It was refreshing. The ocean looked different in the morning. Calmer. Like it hadn't fully woken up yet. I walked a little closer, letting the sand shift beneath my feet. And for a moment, I just stood there. No phone. No thoughts about what needed to be done. Just presence. That was new. Back before everything changed, even silence had weight. It used to come with overthinking, second-guessing, preparing. Now, it just existed. And so did I. Couldn't sleep. Marcus's voice came from behind me. I glanced back, smiling slightly. Actually, I slept better than I have in years. He walked up beside me, hands in his pockets. Yay. Yay. He looked out at the water. Good. We stood there for a moment. Then he nudged my shoulder lightly. So what's the first move? I let out a small breath. I don't know yet. And that didn't feel like a problem. It felt honest. We could explore, he suggested. Or we could do nothing. I smiled. I think doing nothing might be exactly what I need for a minute. He nodded. Then that's the plan. The days that followed didn't rush. They unfolded. We found a small grocery store a few streets away. A quiet cafe near the shoreline, where no one asked too many questions. A walking path that curved along the water just enough to feel like it was leading somewhere, even when it wasn't. There was no big moment. No dramatic turning point. Just consistency. And that's what made it powerful. Because for once, peace wasn't temporary. About a week in, I got a call I hadn't expected. I was sitting on the porch, a cup of coffee in my hands, watching the waves roll in when my phone rang. My father. I hesitated for half a second, then answered. Hey. Hey, he replied. There was a pause. Not awkward. Just careful. How is it? He asked. I looked out at the water. It's real. He let out a quiet breath. I'm glad. Another pause. Then. I've been thinking about something, he said. I leaned back slightly. Okay. I don't want to just call and check in. His voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something more intentional. I want to actually be part of your life. That landed. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. What does that look like to you? I asked. I'm not sure yet, he admitted. But I'm willing to figure it out. I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see me. That's a good place to start. I know I can't fix the past, he added. I'm not asking you to. I just don't want to repeat it. Then don't. Silence again. But this time, it felt like something was being built inside it. Not avoided. Not ignored. Built. I'll call again soon, he said. Not out of habit. Out of intention. I smiled slightly. I'll be here. I know. And when the call ended, I didn't feel drained. I felt hopeful. Later that evening, Marcus joined me on the porch again. You look like something shifted, he said. I glanced at him. It did. Good shift. Yay. I told him about the call. He listened without interrupting. Then nodded. That sounds different. It is. Do you trust it? I thought about that for a second. Then answered honestly. I trust the effort. He smiled slightly. That's enough. And he was right. Because trust didn't come from words anymore. It came from consistency. From showing up. From choosing over and over again to do things differently. As the sky darkened and the first stars started to appear, I leaned back in my chair, letting everything settle. This new life. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to prove anything. It just was. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting for it to be taken away. I wasn't bracing for impact. I wasn't preparing for disappointment. I was living. Fully. Quietly. Honestly. And maybe that was the biggest transformation of all. Not escaping the past. Not rewriting it. But finally reaching a point where it no longer dictated what came next. Where it no longer had control. Where it simply existed behind me. And as I looked out at the endless horizon one more time, a thought settled in that felt stronger than anything before it. This isn't the aftermath. This is the beginning. And this time, I'm not just surviving it. I'm choosing it. The beginning didn't announce itself. There was no single moment where everything clicked into place. No clear line between who I had been and who I was becoming. It happened quietly. In the way I woke up without tension sitting in my chest. In the way I spoke without rehearsing every word in my head first. In the way silence no longer felt like something I had to fill. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. It became honest. A month passed. Then two. And slowly, without forcing it, I started building something of my own. Not out of pressure. Out of interest. There was a small workspace near the harbor. Nothing more than a shared building where a few people came and went, each working on their own thing, their own pace. I started going there in the mornings. At first, just to sit. to think, to write. No expectations. No deadlines. Just showing up. And then, gradually, it turned into something. Ideas that used to stay trapped in my head started taking shape. Words became structure. Structure became direction. Direction became purpose. Not the kind that traps you. The kind that pulls you forward. Marcus would sometimes stop by in the afternoons, leaning against the doorway, watching me work with that quiet smile of his. "You're different here," he said once. I glanced up. "How?" "You're not trying to prove anything." I thought about that. Then nodded. "Yeah, I'm not." Because for the first time, what I was building didn't come from fear, or from needing validation. It came from me. My father kept calling. Not every day. Not in a way that felt overwhelming. Just consistently. Sometimes we talked about small things. Weather. Food. Things he was fixing around the house. Other times, it went deeper. Not forced. Not dramatic. Just real. And one evening, a few months in, he said something that stayed with me. "I used to think being present meant being physically there," he admitted. I listened quietly. But I've realized I was there all those years and still absent in the ways that mattered. I didn't interrupt. "I'm trying to change that," he said. "I can see that," I replied. A pause. Then, "Thank you for giving me the chance to." I looked out at the ocean as he said that. "I didn't give you the chance," I said calmly. "You chose to take it." And that was the difference. Ownership. Not just for me. For him too. My mother took longer. Not to reach out, but to settle into something new. She called occasionally. Visited once. The first time she stood on that porch, looking out at the ocean, she didn't say much. Just stood there. Taking it in. "It's bigger than I expected," she finally said. I smiled slightly. "Yay." She nodded. And for a moment, I could see it. The part of her that used to try to contain everything, realizing she couldn't contain this. Not the ocean. Not my life. Not anymore. "I'm still learning," she admitted quietly. "I know. I won't always get it right." "You don't have to." She looked at me then. "Just don't shut me out when I don't." I held her gaze. "I won't, as long as you don't try to take control again." She nodded. And that was our balance. Not perfect, but real. Seasons started to change. The ocean looked different depending on the day. Sometimes calm. Sometimes restless. Sometimes somewhere in between. And I realized I was the same. Not fixed. Not one version of myself. But I wasn't lost in those changes anymore. I moved with them. Understood them. Let them exist without letting them define everything. One evening, almost a year after we had arrived, Marcus and I sat on the porch again. Same place. Different people. "Do you ever think about how everything started?" he asked. I let out a small breath. "Yay. The wedding, all of it." I nodded. "I used to think that was the moment everything broke," I said. "And now?" I looked out at the horizon. The same endless stretch that had once felt unfamiliar now felt like home. Now I think it was the moment everything finally told the truth. He smiled slightly. "That's a better way to look at it. It's a more accurate way. Because nothing actually broke that day. It revealed. The control. The silence. The patterns. The things I had been living inside without fully seeing. And once I saw them, I couldn't unsee them. Which meant I couldn't go back. Only forward. I stood up, walking a few steps closer to the edge of the porch. The air was cooler now. The sound of the waves steady as ever. "I used to be afraid of ending up alone," I said quietly. Marcus didn't respond right away. He didn't need to. I stayed in situations that didn't feel right, just to avoid that, I continued. I turned slightly, looking back at him. But I never realized I already felt alone in those moments. He nodded slowly. "Yay. And now, I looked around. At the life we had built. At the space that felt like mine. At the relationships that were no longer based on control or fear, but on choice and effort. I'm not alone, I said. Not because I needed someone to fill that space, but because I had finally shown up in my own life. Marcus stood, walking over to stand beside me. You did the hard part, he said. I shook my head slightly. No, I did the necessary part. And that was the truth of it. Walking, setting boundaries, facing everything I had avoided for years. It wasn't about strength. It was about honesty. As the last light of the day faded into the horizon, I felt something settle in a way that didn't need words anymore. No loose ends pulling at me. No unfinished weight. Just completion. Not of the story, but of that chapter. Because life wasn't about reaching a perfect ending. It was about reaching a place where you no longer needed to escape your own reality. Where you didn't feel trapped inside expectations that weren't yours. Where you could stand still and feel at peace with where you were. And for the first time in my life, that's exactly where I was. Not running. Not hiding. Not proving anything. Just living. Fully. Honestly. Freely. I took one last look at the horizon, then turned back toward the house. Toward the life waiting inside. And as I stepped forward, there was no hesitation left in me. No second guessing. No fear of what came next. Because whatever came next, it would be mine. And this time, I was ready for it.